I'm going to take you on a journey through the process of buying a house in Arizona. I'm going to help you avoid the pitfalls that waste your time and your money. I am Conrad Walton at PrescottRealEstate.com. Now, the wrong way to buy a house is to sit in the dark in your underwear, doom scrolling through Zillow and falling in love with a house. Honey, we got to come look at the house. And the next day you go out and you try to look at this house that you fell in love with, only to have them ask you, where's your buyer broker agreement? Have you got a pre-qual? You have no idea what they're talking about. You end up going way back to the beginning. You're following the path that I'm going to show you. And by the time you get back to the house that you really love, somebody else has already bought it. You end up in the state of despair, swimming in a lake of tears. Nobody wants that, okay? So we're going to start at the beginning. We're going to do this the right way and go through the entire process in order. The right way to buy a house: Phase 1, preparation. Phase 2, search. Phase 3, the offer. And Phase 4, escrow. Now here's the whole process, each step along the entire way. First, we're going to go through the blue sections, the preparation phase. The first part is your finances. You're either going to be paying cash or you're going to get a loan. If you got cash, you need to get proof of funds from your bank or wherever you've got your money tied up. If you're going to get a loan, you need to get a pre-qual from a lender, a pre-qualification form, official form signed by him where he's verifying that you're worth X number of dollars for a loan. That qualifies you to actually buy a house. And you need to figure out exactly how much can you afford and what are your financial constraints. You can't be shooting for the moon here. You've got to be reasonable. Number 2 is get an agent. The easiest way to get the best agent, call 928-925-4428. I will answer your phone, solve all your problems. If that's not what you want to do, then you're going to go find another agent. Don't just pick somebody that you know, a friend of a friend, somebody in your community, in your church, a social group, a neighbor. Don't do that. Go out and do some research. I would suggest you interview 2 or 3 agents and find out who you really feel comfortable with. Some you're just not going to fit with, and others will do a good job. Top producers in the area where they're just cranking out a lot of things, you might think they might be a good agent, and they probably will do a good job. You might get lost in the machine if they've got 100 other clients. So I wouldn't suggest a top agent. Newbies who just got in, they're going to have somebody looking over their shoulder, and they're going to be eager and they're going to work hard. So a newbie, don't pass up a newbie out there. They might do a really good job for you. Number 3 is commissions. Since August of 2024, there was a lawsuit settlement, and the whole way that we do commissions is completely different now. It used to be that the seller and the seller's agent negotiated an amount and shared it with the buyer's agent. The buyer had nothing to do with that, no voice in any negotiations at all. Now, before you can look at a house, you've got to sign a buyer broker agreement that you negotiate a commission with your buyer's agent before you ever set foot on property. So that negotiation you have to do up front, completely different. There's a lot of aspects to how that works and pros and cons. We'll get into that in one of the other 4 videos. The next phase is the search. These are the yellow boxes on my map here. And the first thing you want to do when you're searching is figure out what you want. You need to define what you want. And that's a matter of neighborhoods, what kind of neighborhood you want to live in. Do you want to live in a rural subdivision, downtown, out in the boonies? You've got to figure out styles. What kind of a house do you want? What kind of features do you want? How big? How many acres? How many bedrooms? How many square feet? All that. You need to sit down, have a real heart-to-heart, and figure out exactly what it is you want. The next item is search. And your agent can set up an automated search from the MLS so that as soon as somebody lists something, you'll get an email notice. And that can really be helpful when you've got a hot market and you want to get there before the next guy. You can also, of course, look at Zillow. I would recommend Realtor.com. That has a lot of really good tools in it. Some of the other portals don't. Homes.com is making a real run for it. Redfin, and there's some other ones out there, but Realtor.com, Zillow, Homes.com, those seem to be the big 3. When you're doing your searches, you're going to use filters to filter number of bedrooms, price, size of the house, things like that. I would suggest when you search on price, if you can afford 850,000, that you search for 9.25. There might be one listed for 9.25 you can get for 850. Go in with a low ball, search for a higher priced property. You may not be able to do it, but you need to know what's out there. Now, after you found your ideal house and you want to go look at it, which I recommend putting your feet on the ground. I have a photographer that makes any house look amazing. So when you see it online or in videos, not necessarily a good representation of what the house is actually like. You're going to have to sign that buyer broker agreement, do the commission paperwork with your agent. That has to happen before you can look at a house. These are new rules for everybody in the nation. It's not just your local MLS or the state. It's nationwide. Every agent now has to go do that. Next, you're going to schedule showings. You're going to have your agent set up times and dates when you can go look at it. Please don't do short notice. I was showing homes and I had somebody go, oh, look, here on Zillow, a new home just popped up. Can I go look at it? It's like, they're probably having lunch right now. I'm not going to interrupt them. Give people a day or two setup time before you go actually look at it. Before you go on a showing, do all your research online. Look at the photos, look at the description, go through all the information. Know what the house is about before you even get there. So when you're there, you're not surprised. When you're on site and you're looking through a house, just remember that most people have audio and video recordings going on. I've had many sellers send me videos with audio of showings and what people are saying as they walk through the house or around the outside of the house. Keep your mouth shut, say nice things, nod your head, notice things, but don't exclaim. Just be real quiet. The next phase is red. It's the offer. This is where things get a little dicey. You need a good agent. The first part is going to be writing an offer. We're going to go through the contract in detail. 11 pages. Each line is numbered. There's a lot of details and each part of it is important. You need to read the whole thing. You need to understand what each part is talking about. And ask your agent for advice. Your agent knows all the details of that contract. We live and breathe these contracts. They know the details. You need to read through and understand as much as you can. Ask them what a seller concession is. You might get a cheaper loan if you wangle the seller concession part. A lot of people are not aware of that. Another new part of the contract is the commission for the buyer's agent now gets to be negotiated along with the contract. Maybe the seller is going to give you a 3% commission and that's built into the purchase price. Maybe it's not. Maybe they're not going to give you anything and they're going to say, no, if you want 3%, add 3% to your purchase price, give that to us, and then we'll give that to your buyer's agent. Make sure you understand that. Talk that through with your buyer's agent. This next step is my favorite, negotiation. This is where you get to negotiate everything in that contract. The length of the inspection period. Normally it's purchase price. Maybe it's the amount of down payment. Maybe there's some financial issues. Maybe it's the close date. Whatever is important to you and important to the seller, you're going to negotiate those and come to some sort of an agreement. I love going back and forth, finding out how far I can push people, finding out what's important to them, what are they going to push back on. My advice here, always ask for more. Don't be afraid of offending people. This is the part of the deal where you need an agent that's not going to be offended. You might be sensitive. They might be offended. Oh, my house is worth more. But agents are just grinding numbers. Let us grind the number. Don't worry about lowballing them on the offer. And then don't get offended if they come back with a high offer. It's just business at this point, and you just want to come to common ground. Now that you've got an accepted contract, you're going to put that contract into escrow. Talk to your agent about picking an escrow agent. The best escrow agent is Lisa Stowers at Yavapai Title in Prescott, and your agent probably has a favorite. The escrow company is a disinterested third party. They make sure everybody adheres to the contract, follows all the rules that were agreed to. They hold the money, and then they handle recording it with the county at the end. They also run a title search. Title search is going to show up. Is there a loan on the property? Is there a lien on the property? Are there easements or encroachments and a lot of things? You're going to get what's called a Schedule B in your title report. Most people don't read that. You should read through that. You should understand what it says. If you don't understand something in there, you should talk to your escrow agent. They'll be more than happy to explain all the details. Once you've got an accepted contract and you put it into escrow, the inspection period begins. Usually it's 10 days, could be 14. As a buyer's agent, I'm going to ask for more days. As a seller's agent, I'm going to ask for fewer days. In that period, you need to inspect everything you want to inspect. You're going to get a document called a SPDS, an SPDS, a seller property disclosure statement. It's going to be, I think it's 6 or 8 pages, disclosing everything that the seller knows is wrong. You need to read through that. When I'm selling a property, I tell my sellers, put as much stuff in there as you can, overwhelm the buyers with information. Buyers won't read through it all, and you're good. It's really a document to cover their liability as a seller, so you can't come back later and say, hey, you didn't tell me XYZ. And they're like, nope, right there in the SPDS, I told you about it. Read through the SPDS line by line and understand everything in there. You need to know that thing. You need to know every red flag there possibly could be along the way. If you don't have information, or if you have a question about what's there, talk to your agent and see if you can get that answer. At the end of the inspection period, before the end of the inspection period, you are going to fill out what's called a BINSR, buyer inspection notice and seller response. And basically you've got 3 choices on that. 1, you can cancel. You can cancel the contract for no apparent reason, walk away, get your earnest money, and live happily ever after. You can accept it as is. The house is fine, you accept it, we're all good, live happily ever after. Or you can ask for repairs or money in lieu of repairs. If you want a new roof, or the plumbing is leaking, or you want something replaced, you can request that. The seller response part of this is you say, oh, I want the repairs below. You fill that form out. You give that back to the seller. Now the seller, they have a few days to say, yeah, okay, fine, we'll do that for you. Or, yeah, we're not doing that for you. We're not giving you a new roof. Forget it. At which point then you can cancel the deal, or you can go, oh, well, you tried, and you move on and you buy it and you put your own roof on. So those are your choices. But that timeline, if you miss that deadline at the end of midnight on the last day of the inspection period, then you just accepted the house, and regardless of what condition it's in, you bought it. Okay, now we've gone through the inspection period. We've accepted the house. We like the house. All we got to do now is pay for it. If you've got cash, that means you got to wire it to escrow. They're going to give you escrow instructions. Fraud is a big deal out there. Do not listen to me or any other agent about your wiring instructions. Get that directly from escrow. Do not change it. If you get an email, the typical fraud is, oh, we've changed our escrow instructions. Go to this account instead of that. Don't do that. If you get anything from escrow, you call up your escrow agent and you find out exactly what's going on and reconfirm it before you send, $500,000 in a wire. It could end up in China by 2 o'clock if you do it wrong. So be very careful about wiring your money. If you're getting a loan, they're going to take care of wiring the money, but you're going to have to do an appraisal. The appraisal is the lender making sure that the house, they're not making a $800,000 loan on a $300,000 house. It's got to appraise for the value that the lender thinks it's worth. So when the lender's happy with the appraisal and all the paperwork's in order, they go through underwriting and they get to clear to close, and they're good with everything. The last step is closing. You're going to get a closing statement from escrow. It's going to list out every charge. You're going to prorate property taxes. You're going to pay for HOA transfer fees. There's going to be a bunch of stuff. Maybe a loan gets paid off on the other side. That's not your problem. But that settlement statement should make sense to you. Again, if you have any questions, you need to ask your escrow agent about that. And there have been some changes or misunderstandings, or, I thought they were paying this or you're paying, whatever. Go through that and make sure everything is in order, because that's the amount of money that you're going to have to pay at the bottom line when you buy this house. The day before you close, you should do a final walkthrough. You don't have to, but you should go do a walkthrough, make sure they didn't burn the place down or put a hole in the wall. Or I had a home once that the home inspector ran the washing machine, and it was an old one, and a valve didn't quite close right. They did the final walkthrough. The valve had been leaking, and it had leaked water out onto the floor, ruined the wood floor in the kitchen, ruined 2 feet of drywall. In the bedroom, had to rip up the carpet. We had to, the day before close, we had to credit them $2,500 to do all the repairs just so we can get it closed. Do your final walkthrough. You don't know what you're going to find. When all the paperwork and all the money and everything is finished, everybody's agreed to everything, everybody's been signed off, then the escrow company releases it to the county to record, release to record. Usually takes the county a couple hours to actually do the recording. And when the county calls your escrow company and says we've recorded, escrow is going to turn around and call your agent. Your agent's going to call you and say, congratulations, you just bought a house, you have recorded. And all you have left to do is pick up your keys from your agent. Normally you meet them at the house, you get your keys and you walk in to your brand new house, and that is the moment that we've all been waiting for. That's the moment I live for. I want to make my clients happy, and that's the end game right there. So congratulations when you buy a house. So that's an overview of the entire process. Before we go, I want to give you some advice. I want to tell you that everything is negotiable. And I'm going to say that a lot through all my videos. Everything is negotiable. Always ask for more. You never know till you know. So always poke at everything. If you don't understand something, ask questions. We as agents tend to blow through this stuff because we do this all day, every day. This is nothing to us. But I forget sometimes that not everybody's been through the paperwork and knows what all the check boxes are for. So if you don't understand something, ask. I mean, on one hand, yeah, I'd like a buyer to just kind of shut up and do what I tell them to, but that's not in your interest. Don't do that. You want to bother your agent, and I think your agent's probably going to appreciate it because that means you're involved and you're part of the process. And I always like to see my clients understand what's going on and be able to appreciate all the effort that's going into the process. I also want to say that it's just business. It's not personal, except that it's very personal. And as agents, we tend to just fill out forms and negotiate and talk numbers and square footage and all that, and forget that there's real people involved. And you're going to have some emotions along this journey. I think it's one of the reasons you want to have an agent, because we're a little more removed and we can, insult people or negotiate without getting overwhelmed emotionally. But it's a hard process. A lot of things that are difficult, and there's some negative emotions, but in the end, you can celebrate, and it's a very joyful process. To get a new place is an exciting, wonderful thing. I find great joy in making my clients happy. And when you walk in the door, keys in your hand, and this is your new house, there's no better moment in life than that. If you're ready to buy a house, then let's go on this journey together. Watch the next 4 videos for more detailed information about each step along the way, or give me a call. All right, you ready? Let's go.